Alright guys, and welcome back to the channel. I decided to make a quick video on rolling resistance, and I'm going to talk to you about different types of rollers for different types of jobs. And if you notice here, I don't have an 18-inch roller here, and it's because I don't use them, and I'll explain to you why. A lot of people say they're faster. I'm going to say that you actually lose man hours, and I'm going to tell you why real quick. If you don't believe me, that's okay. But what's the thing you do the most? And I'm going to go over these in a minute, but I'm just going to get this out of the way real quick. What's the thing you do the most of, where you spend your most time? Is it cutting in or rolling? Regardless of whether you're using a 9-inch or an 18-inch, it's always the cut in. Cut in takes you more time. So for instance, you can't paint that with an 18, but you can do that with a 9, no problem. You can get in there and just get that done. It eliminates having to use more tools. Again, that corner couldn't be painted with an 18. You'd have to use a 9. Maybe you could flip the 18 on its end, but with those 18s on their end like this are a little hard to get control of, and you know you're going to have, it's going to take you a little more time to do that area, so you're going to lose some time there. For instance, right here, this little piece here, you couldn't do that with an 18. You'd have to come back and use a 7-inch roller or something else, but I could do that easily with a 9-inch roller. You end up with a very small cut in with an 18, with a 9. In fact, if you roll it first and then you go back and cut in your corners, usually very little to do with a 9-inch roller in the corner. If you're painting right here, couldn't do that with an 18. You'd have to come back with another setup and do it with something else. When you're doing stairs, you can set a nice 5-gallon bucket with a 9-inch roller on it, and you can work your way up the stairs, and you can bring the roller up with you. With an 18, it's kind of a hazard because it takes up the whole stair to put it on there, and if you'd have to step over it and stuff like that, or a lot of guys will just leave them on the ground and then wet their roller up and then go up the stairs and down. It takes you a lot more time. Also, if you watch some of my other videos, a lot of guys will use an 18-inch roller and they'll have to push on the roller really hard. That actually naps down your roller and makes it not hold as much paint. And you end up with a lot of holidays and cat eyes in the middle of your roll section. Okay, when you're using 18, of course you should overlap, a lot when you're using one. In other words, you should be overlapping maybe 25% instead of 50%. With a normal roller, 9-inch roller, you would overlap 50% on every roll as you go. When you're doing an 18, you probably have to do 25% to make sure that you don't get those cat eyes, and you're still going to probably get some as well. Also, they take up a lot of room in your truck and all the equipment there, and they're very heavy and hard on your back. Some guys like to use them for ceilings, but I do all my ceilings with an airless. I do not use and if I'm going to back roll a ceiling, I'll do that with a 9-inch because it really doesn't make any difference if you're back rolling with 18 or back rolling with the 9-inch. It still takes about the same amount of time. So anyway, that's why we don't use them. They really don't save us time. We've checked it. It's at least 20% difference in time savings if you add up all those things, because I will only use a brush when I do my cut in. I use only a brush. I don't use a Slim Jim roller and a brush when I do cut in. You don't need to do that. That slows you down. If you use a brush only, you'll be a lot faster in your cut in because you don't have all those extra tools in your bucket. That all slows you down when you're cutting in. So if you can just use a brush and a 9-inch roller, you'll be faster in the long haul. It'll seem like you're slower when you're rolling, but you actually make up for it and then some on the cut. So anyway, that's out of the way. Let's go back into rollers. Why, which ones to use, and which ones don't. And just think about this like this. If you've ever ridden a skateboard and you ride with really small wheels, this is called rolling resistance. If you have really small wheels on your skateboard, what happens when you hit a rock? They're going to go over you're going to get thrown off of it, right? But if you get really tall wheels and they hit rocks, it kind of rolls over them. So there's less rolling resistance. This is just physics. And so there's less rolling resistance with a larger wheel. The same thing with rollers. So a lot of guys will use a Slim Jim roller to do a lot of jobs, and sometimes they should be using a large Slim Jim like this one, or a 9-inch roller. Not this one actually, but I'm just saying, a 9-inch roller. So the reason you use a 9-inch roller a lot of times versus using a Slim Jim is because it has less rolling resistance. So what happens is it rolls over the surface easier. Because it's an easier roll, it takes less off when you roll it. So you get better coverage with a 9-inch roller than you do with a Slim Jim. Guys, don't believe me on this, but I'm telling you, it works. So if you're having coverage issues with a Slim Jim, you might want to try a larger Slim Jim like one of these, or a 9-inch roller, because when it rolls over it, it's pulling it back off because it's got rolling resistance. So sometimes there's times when to use a Slim Jim, and there's times when not to. I'm just telling you about this so you can kind of figure that out as you go. Figure out on your job what's the best tool to use, because sometimes it won't be this tool, it'll be that one. Typically when I do a house, and there's these two different rollers here. You've got your synthetic roller, and you also have here your the lamb's wool. Now, lamb's wools are really good for doing walls and stuff like that, but the good things about them is they hold a lot of paint. When you dip the roller, it soaks the paint up very quickly, so you spend less time with that roller in the dipping. But the takeaway on it is because it soaks up paint so easily, it also pulls paint back off when you're rolling. So as you're rolling a wall it's almost like a sponge. It kind of pulls the paint back off, where you can actually get a little bit better coverage in some cases with a synthetic roller. So a lot of people will fight me on this as well. They'll say, oh, okay, you can't, it doesn't cover good. It's all about rolling resistance. This has less rolling resistance than this does. So you can get better coverage. Now, it's going to take you a little bit more time to get it out of the bucket with this, okay? This is going to come out of the bucket very quickly and easily. And another thing you'll see guys do is they'll keep one of these things forever. These things wear out, okay? After a while, they're really nice because they clean up really good. I use them. I've used both of these types of rollers. They clean up really nice. You can use it again. That's really good. These don't clean up very well. I usually throw them away at the end of the job. But these do clean up and you can reuse them. Okay, but you have to think about the job you're doing. So let's say you're doing a color that's almost covering with this roller. I mean, it's almost making it, but not quite. And now you're going to have to go through and roll it again. So you can have more paint, more time to roll it that second coat. Maybe you should try using another a synthetic roller to do it, because you might be able to save a little bit of paint, a little bit of time to do it in one coat versus two. I'm just saying that those are things to think about when you're on their job site. It's not, there's no perfect science to it. I can't tell you when to do it, but if you know this, it'll help you maybe save the extra day of man hours and time and paint. So anyway, that's for that. The other thing is, I'll explain to you real quick. Sorry, what I normally do when I do a house. Most of the houses today, it is you're painting the ceilings like a white, off-white. I never use pure white. If a customer says to me to use pure white, I tell them I'm not doing the job. I tell them that the only thing I use is like a white shadow or a little bit off of pure white, because it doesn't cover very good. The other one doesn't cover very good, and also it gets dirty very quickly and it doesn't look very good. It doesn't look as good as the little bit off-white, like white shadow, almost pure white. Sorry guys, had to move because of the neighbor's dogs. Hope that wasn't making it too tough for you to hear what I'm saying. So anyway, what I was going to say about the what we do when we normally paint a house is I'll set up a 9-inch roller for the bathrooms and kitchen ceilings, okay, because usually they're going to go white and enamel, the same as your doors are. And then what I'll do is I'll go through and use that to do the doors. Now, there's two different types of doors. You have a slab door and you have recessed panel. Let's take a look at what they are. This is a metal recessed panel door. This is a smooth or slab door. So typically I like to brush finish my doors, but what I do is I'll use a 9-inch roller, the same 9-inch roller that I do the ceilings with. I'll go through and cut and roll the doors. If I'm using that for doing slab doors, I'll use the 9-inch roller. Sometimes I'll switch to a 7-inch or a Slim Jim or a 7-inch like one of these to do the doors. And then we'll also chase them with a brush. It depends on what it is. So you go ahead and put the paint on the door, and then take your brush and just lightly go over it with the brush so it has a brush finish. So you have a nice smooth finish on the door, and that makes it look good for your custom work. It depends on the customer. Sometimes you got to spray the doors because they're real high end. It just depends. Every job's different, but this is your typical normal ma and pa house that you do this way. Okay, so go through and the same roller, and then at the end of the job we'll throw that roller away, and then if we need to do any more touch up later, we can use a 7-inch roller for that, a 7-inch Slim Jim or whatever, because they're very cheap. The Slim Jims are very cheap. You can throw them away at the end of the job. It's not going to cost you much. Just a little more money when you throw one of these away. So anyway, for walls typically we'll use these. They work really good. The lambskin works really nice on walls. It holds a lot of paint. It'll get it on the wall quickly, and you'll get a little more mileage out of each dip with that roller. But again, you will be putting a little bit thinner coat on there. So sometimes if I run into a case where a job's, we start to paint a little bit, we see one room, we go, hey, that's not covering very good. Got to do 2 coats, and I think we can get it in one. Then we'll switch over and try it with the other to see if we can get a little more mileage that way. Just different things like that we'll try on a job site as we're going. That's all. This is all about making more money for your time. A lot of guys say, oh, you're the expert at paint, or whatever. You're better than everybody, so all this information and whatever. Hey, look, I'm just talking to you about one thing. It's about making more money for your time. If you're interested in that, then these videos are good. If you don't care, if you just don't care if you make any money, and you go around, don't want to learn how to make more money, then this isn't the channel for you. That's all I can say. There's plenty of YouTube channels that just talk about painters that, don't talk about how to make more money doing the job. I'm trying to show you guys how to do it faster and better and make a little bit more money. So anyway, that's it for this. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'd like to see what your comments are. Make sure you push the like button on that video. Talk to you.